Hello, my name is Soebbing and welcome to Quilt Addicts Anonymous. We have a real treat for you. Monika Forsberg, who is a FreeSpirit designer under the Conservatory branch that Maria Horner brought together, is on. We're going to be talking about her just released collection, Homeward. This was actually designed pre-pandemic. If that seems like an eternity ago, it was. But it takes a long time for the fabric to go from concept to fabric that we can create something with. So we talk about her inspirations, her career as an artist, and I actually identified with her quite a bit because we both had big career changes when we became moms. And we thought, well, this is nice, but I really want something that will allow me to be more present for my kids. So I really identified with her on that. I loved hearing her stories on her inspirations. She takes a dip in a pond year-round to start her day. So she's an amazing woman. All right, so let's hear more about Monika. And just so you know, we still do have fabric available and we still have kits available for our quilt that we designed with Homeward. And you can get all that over at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com. Also, if you're watching this on the day we release it, today is the last day to sign up for Stashin with Stephanie to get your first bundle in May. So we cut off everything at the end of the month and then we ship out the bundles on the 20th of next month. So if you join in May, that means your first bundle isn't coming until June. So make sure you get in now so you don't have to wait so long. Our next collection is going to be from Figo. It's called Forage. It's super pretty, a great one for summer. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy that. All right, let's chat with Monika. Well, thanks for taking some time out to join us today to chat about you and your artwork.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you were born in Sweden and now you live in London, and you have made your way as a professional artist for quite some time now. How did that come about? You know, have you always created since you were little and then just found a way to make a living at it?
I always drew as a kid, always making things, always writing stories, and then I end up, and me and my mum would always go to fabric shops and always loved fabrics. I would sew my clothes. So when I was a teenager, all my clothes were homemade. And then I moved to England to study art and became an animator and worked as an animator for many years. And then when my youngest son was born, I decided to change and to sort of relearn how to draw and sort of unlearn, you know, everything I learned. And so I spent a few years just drawing observational drawings and just learning to look and draw and then use colors. And eventually I started getting jobs, illustration jobs, and it sort of just happened and just sort of grew. And then one day Maria contacted me and said she wanted to start like an artist, a curated artist fabric collection, and it sounded great. So I said yeah. And then I think it took a few years because loads of logistics and stuff, and we met up, and then it was launched, the Conservatory Craft, and it sort of worked on from there. But it's sort of been a childhood dream to make fabrics and stuff.
Was it challenging to go from working as an animator, where I assume there's a brief and your art has to match a lot of other people's art to create the whole and make it work, to sort of finding your own voice?
Well, to be completely honest, I was probably a terrible animator because I mostly made my own films that I directed and wrote and then had commissioned. So I made a few films and some were quite successful, but I've realized if you're going to make a good living from being an animator, you have to work for other people or in bigger teams, and it's not really me. And you have to plan so much ahead, and it didn't suit me.
I also made a big career change when I had my first child. I think it helps you kind of refocus. I was working in advertising and working at agencies, and I was building other people's businesses. And I kind of thought, well, I could get out of this rat race and build my own and have flexibility to be the kind of mom I want to be. And and it's still crazy.
It's crazy in a different way, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like I'm always working in my head, but I'm here, I'm at home, and I think that's important.
Yes, especially these days when kids really need a lot of support because they're being bombarded all the time by messaging that we didn't have. You know, I didn't have a cell phone until I was 16, and it only like texted and made phone calls.
Exactly. How old is your children?
I have a almost 16-month-old and a almost 7-year-old. So
Wow.
it's been an interesting year. My daughter just started back in school for the first time in a year, about a week ago. So it's been a crazy year. How have your kids done? Because I know England has had more lockdowns than we have.
Yeah, no, we've had a lot of disruptions. So my oldest son, he's nearly 20, and he's at university, but here in London, so he's been living at home. But he's been doing everything been online for the past year. So that's been a big change. And then the youngest one, he's 10 and had loads of homeschooling and whilst you're working, and
it's challenging. It's very challenging because you're trying to work and make a living, and also make sure your child knows and learns. You know, when they're younger like that, your 19-year-old, he's probably got it. He's responsible for himself. But a 10-year-old, you kind of have to watch and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you say, I really have to concentrate and, you know, just for an hour and I need to get this done. They don't really always get it, and you don't want to be mean and and that. Like, yeah, it's been hard.
So you are very diversified in your art. You don't just do fabric. You have a bunch of kids products, between games and puzzles and books to you've done work for some major brands. So how did your career kind of progress from I want to do something different now that I'm a mom and do something more that is suitable to me and will make a good living for me, to being able to develop that brand and that style?
I think I didn't want to paint myself into a corner and become a niche thing, because then one day that will go out of fashion if I just did, for example, kids' books, and then maybe one day my style wouldn't be good enough. And so I thought if I diversify myself and be as broad as possible in all the different areas you can make a living, and then there will always be something happening, because and it's been working really well. So
I think what people at home don't realize is when you work as an artist and there's contracts and licensing deals, like you only get paid like a couple times a year from those licensing contracts. So you have to have lots of irons in the fire in order to have consistent income.
Yeah. And I think someone said to me when I started off, it was like always have like 6 months worth of, living wages in your, in your account, so you know that you can, because sometimes you might have a quiet month, and and sometimes maybe you will have 6 months of quiet. I think in the beginning of my career I had like 2 months of not having any work coming in and no money, but then I had that buffer zone, so you don't have to panic because you know something will come. And
so what inspires you? Obviously there's a lot of birds, there's a lot of patchwork, a lot of nature. So how do you get your inspiration and come up with what you're going to create and then repurpose across many different platforms?
Yeah, I think inspiration is a really difficult question, because I don't really know what I think it's more that I get really sort of itchy fingers. I need to make something, do something. And I'm guessing, just every morning I'll go for a walk, down the streets and up over the hill and stuff. And there's loads of plants and broken tiles on the people's front paths, which I guess inspires me, because then I will come home and that like, I don't know if you can see. Yeah. I'm thinking, yeah. So then, some tiles on the front porch, that might be something, the starting point of something. And So it's little bits from everywhere, I think.
I noticed that many of your designs have patchwork elements to them. So did the quilting / tile work, did that come before or after the fabric design started?
Definitely before. I think my mum did a lot of patchwork quilting, and I remember, looking through her books of patchwork quilts, and I remember finding Cafe Facet.
Okay, Facet.
I don't even know how you say his name, but I remember seeing there was like a tiny little bit of him in one book, and his use of color was just, this must have been in the maybe late 80s. So when everything was a lot more muted, and I saw his colors, and I was like, wow, are you allowed to use this much color? It was just a revelation. So that was inspired. So yeah, I always liked geometric patchwork quilts. I always liked the patterns of it, and I used to, you didn't have the internet back when I grew up, so you would look in the few books you had, or in the library books. So I definitely looked at a lot of quilt books when I was little. Yeah,
cave was kind of a turning point for me too, from traditional to you can have a pink background and that's okay.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
I know. I got to meet him and do an interview with him many years ago. My older daughter was, I don't know, maybe about a year and a half at the time. And I saw his exhibit which was antique quilts next to modern quilts that they were inspired by the antique. And it was just so bright and bold, and there wasn't like a traditional neutral anywhere. And I was like, this is what I've been missing from quilting. I really enjoyed the process, but the color just, it was not me. And so to see the fun, bit of it, that was fun. But and you have very bright color. I know it's described as Technicolor on your website. So you also love all the color.
I think growing up in my hometown, where it's snow most of the year, and so it's and even in the summer and spring, the colors there are quite tender, even if they're it's almost like very pure watercolors. That's what the world looks like there. It's very beautiful, but it's also very tender and delicate. And I think I'm quite a pale person, and I don't have a lot of colors, so it feels like, I love the use of really bright colors, because it feels like then you exist and you're here. And
so how did this Homeward collection come to be? I see a lot of home elements in it. Obviously there's, the garden and the butterflies, pollinating the garden. But when I saw peacocks, I was like, maybe there are more peacocks in England than there are where I live in my part of the world.
There aren't an awful lot of, I don't know, I think it's more the idea of peacocks, because they're always parade around, and they are, wherever they live, they are very like, this is my home. And there's a botanical garden here in London, Kew Gardens. They have a few peacocks there, and they parade around. They're just so proud, and I think that is the pride of home. That was sort of the idea behind it.
I saw that it looks to me like a country manor, and like the rest of the world, I watched all of Bridgerton, and I was just like, it reminds me of England when I saw it.
Yeah. But last year I was in Spain doing a talk there, and they took me to this garden in the middle of town, and there was peacocks everywhere. They had like a whole garden full of peacocks, and the cars had to stop when they were crossing the road, because they were just treating it like it was their home. So they were just parading around, and cars had to stop and let them walk across the road. So that was lovely to see.
So what have you made with your fabric?
I haven't made, I made a pillowcase, and that's the only thing I made, because I haven't had the sewing machine, but I got the sewing machine about a week and a half ago.
Ooh, exciting.
And I'm gonna make a sort of kimono thing that I sort of just cut it out. But then I'm going to attempt to do some quilting too, because when my mum died, she left behind a half-made bedspread quilt. So it's a big quilt. And one of the last things she said to me was I'm not going to be around to finish it, so you're going to have to finish it. And it's been in the box for 10 years. And I open the box once in a while and go, I should start now. And then I just had to close the box.
I imagine that will be very emotional for you.
Yeah, it is. And I signed up for a course this summer that is called Finish Your Quilt. It's a 1-day course. So I thought, if I can't do it myself, at least I'm going to bring it in there, and then the teacher will just tell me, you can do it, and encourage me, because I've never done any quilting really.
Well, once you if it's all cut for you, that'll be a head start, because cutting accurately is like big, and then sewing your accurate quarter inch seam. If you can do those two things, it's going to come together and you'll be all right.
Yeah, I think it's cutting things properly that is my problem. But yeah, it will be fine. I can do it.
You can do it. Maybe you have a connection to your mother. That'll be great.
So do you do a lot of quilting?
I do. So we put out a pattern every month as part of our subscription club, which of course you were featured in. Yeah. So we actually, I'm turning the wrong way because it's on this side on my viewer. So this is the quilt that we put together with yours.
Oh, wow.
And it's strip piece, which means that I just cut large sections, sew them together, and then cut them apart again. But I was able to, without too much fuss, be able to center the big motifs. And so I really enjoyed working with your collection because it challenged me more, because it's so large, the piecing or the motifs, and you want to use them big, and you want to show off those peacocks in the country manner. And how do you do that and really be able to show it off? Because every quilter, everyone who collects fabric has a section in their stash that's just labeled too pretty to cut up. And I felt like your entire collection fit that. And I was like, okay, we have to make the most of this and really show it off, because people are not going to want to cut into this. They're going to want to just leave it all intact. But, we want to use it. We want to enjoy it daily instead of just, petting it in our stash every once in a while. So that was fun.
No, that looks lovely. That looks really nice.
Yeah, I'll send you a whole photo of it later. But I think it's really fun. And I saw that you use, and I'm going to say it wrong, is it gouache?
Gouache.
Gouache, okay. So I have encountered that with one of our other designers who we have featured on here. What is that? Is it it's a type of painting, I know that much.
It's basically a watercolor. So you can either use water-based gouache. It's basically like watercolor, but less. It's more opaque.
Okay.
Or you can use like tubes of acrylic. So it's it's like watercolor, but more solid in color. So you don't get.
So is that kind of where this came from?
That one started off a long time ago as the front cover for a pencil case for Ebu that I made, and then I think I was making some wrapping paper, and I ended up doing that pattern, and it worked quite well. So we decided to use it for the Homeward collection.
So when you're putting together a fabric collection and you're going through your designs that you've done previous, what's your process of this would work good, and then are you designing pieces that will fill that in as well, and then coloring to make it all work together?
Yeah, I think the starting point for the Homeward collection, I'm trying to think what it was. It may have even, I think we knew we wanted to use some houses, so with them,
the country manners.
That was the starting point, because it was like home, and then we want to take different elements from that one and sort of elaborate on. So then the peacock one, it was like that is a a larger piece. And so it sort of just builds together. And me and Anna Maria, because she's super great, and she's been so helpful at teaching me how to make things, to work with fabric. And so we just sort of chat about the sort of core, and then we think we need a geometric, we need some little bits here, and so it sort of just builds together till we have enough, that feels like a collection.
I really enjoyed this one because I felt like it could be houses, but it also could work as like a kid's print if you wanted to do like some crayons or something.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Yeah, that one started off as I was making a planner, I think it was, and they wanted some coordinate pattern on the inside of the planner. So I did a few different ones, and that one was one of them, and it wasn't chosen. And then it became a wrapping paper as well, and we just thought that is like a perfect fabric because it's quite fun and simple, but and colorful.
It is. It's very colorful. You're able to get all of the colors of the collection. This is a good one to help tie everything together in. So do you have like a typical day? Or are you just doing little bits for this project and then little bits for that project?
No, I definitely have a very set routine. So in the mornings, little son go to school, and then usually I go for a swim in one of the ponds near where I live, winter and summer. And then I come home and I work on whichever project. At the moment, I'm doing 2 kids books and another job, so I work on that solidly up until son comes home from school, and then he's being home and cooking dinner, and then in the evening I tend to work on the sofa on extra other work or things. So
I feel like that's very typical in general of mothers during the pandemic. It's like, you're at school, I'm going to take a little bit of me time, and then I'm going to get as much done as I can until I need to be mom again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a lot of multitasking, and and I think especially when we were connecting over this, trying to organize everything because of the time differences, and we've had some
and kids being in school and
then it was school things, and it was just a bit of a mad few days, and then work, and
this is only my second time that I've had to do the time difference between where I'm at in England.
Course,
I'm used to the US only, and so that's a little easier.
Because then you got because it's summertime, it's British summertime, and not the so it's all different time time zones.
Yeah, we have daylight savings too, and
that's the one.
So annoying. But we just we have the baby, so for like a week we just didn't even attempt to change because I'm just going to let it happen slowly, because you can't convince a baby to change an hour.
I know. I remember that when our oldest was young and none of our friends had kids, so they were like, yes, he's changing, so we get another extra hour in bed, and we were like, no, because it just took like a week or two before got sort of resettled. So
your husband is an artist too, right?
He is, yeah.
And he does big work, sculptures?
Yeah, he does big sculpture work and paintings, so he does big work.
Is he doing that at home too, or does he have a studio?
He has a studio in the garden, but it's too small, so he's got another studio maybe about 40 minutes cycle ride away from here, so that's what he does.
You guys are so active. Like, the idea of swimming in a pond in the winter just terrifies me.
No, it's great. It's it makes you feel alive.
I saw a video, it popped up on my feed, of Nordic morning routine, and this woman cut a hole in the ice and just took a dip, and I'm like, is that normal?
Not really. I think if you have a sauna in the winter, then you will run out and roll around in the snow to sort of cool down. That's not, or jump into a lake like that. I think in the last few years it's become quite popular to winter swim there as well. But yeah, I recommend it.
It sounds interesting. Like, I swam competitively when I was young, but I did a long time ago, not anymore. Wow. But it was never when it was so cold. Yeah. But
yeah, no, I'm not a very good swimmer. I'm just breaststroke. Usually swim with a friend, so you swim around the sort of pond and chat about what's been going on, and it's very leisurely and not much exercise, but it's just
get you out there.
Yeah.
So you're working on a couple kids books. Do you have another fabric collection in the works?
Yeah, after this one, another one is coming out that I got samples for already, but I can't tell you about. And then I just finished drawing another one after that. And then I got another one that we sort of started to plan just about in the last few days. So yeah, there will be at least another 3 coming out.
It's such a long process.
I know. And it's like talking about this one because of the pandemic. It feels like it was so long ago I drew it, and yeah,
was this pre-pandemic created and now it's just coming out?
Yeah. So it's even longer, because normally it's about a year from drawing to it's out in the shops, maybe a year and a half, and this been longer. So it feels like trying to remember how these came about is a
little challenging.
Yeah.
I'm sure you created so much since then. Well, you've got a whole website, you've got shops. Like, I think I saw one of your puzzles that I think I'm going to have to pick up from Ebu. So, like, let everyone know about where they can find you if they love these designs and they want some more of it in their home. I mean, everything from wallpaper to kids products to silk scarves like the one you're wearing. I mean, you are diversified. You are a good businesswoman and a good artist, and those two don't always come together. So, where else can we find you, and what sort of things can people get?
I have a small selection of work for sale in my web shop, which is walkyland.com. And then usually if you just Google my name, things will come up. So Ebu does a lot of puzzles. There's so many different things. There's some kids books. There's a cookery book, like a vegan that I illustrated. And yeah, there's loads of different things.
The wallpaper looks so stunning.
Yeah, that was really fun because I was just drawing. I was going to do this online course on pattern design. So I thought I have to just, work out how I would teach it. So on just tiny pieces of paper. So the paper was maybe not big. The pattern was not maybe bigger than that. And that's how I drew the pattern. And then it became wallpaper. So
that's really cool. Yeah. All right. So is there anything else we need to know about you as a designer?
I don't think so. I mean, if anyone has any questions, you can always email me. Just get in contact through my website, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have one question that I haven't asked yet. So it looks like all of your photos are either of you when you were a little girl or a very long time ago. So is that like an aesthetic thing that you have to have this air of mystery?
I'm just not I don't think I'm very interesting as a person to show. So.
Well, I think they would enjoy it. I think that you're selling yourself short. But it's a strange world where everyone's like, oh, look at me.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, it's a fine line because, personally, I always find it really interesting to see who the person behind the drawings are.
Very cool. All right, well, thanks for taking some time out. I'm glad we were able to navigate time changes and kids' schedules and work times to make it work.
No, it's lovely to meet you, and thank you for taking the time to, set this up.
Of course, thank you. Well, thanks again to Monika for taking some time out of her day and navigating crazy time change schedules so that we could figure out a good time to meet. This is I think only the second time I had to figure out the time difference between my central time zone and London, but that we made it work. So I was glad that we were able to make that work, and you guys were able to get to know her and some more about her design process and her journey as an artist. I always enjoy bringing this to you to give you a closer look into the artists who design the fabric that we love. I really love Homeward. I think it's really gorgeous. I think those peacocks are just so pretty, and she did such a great job of really getting the colors to coordinate. And the pattern we put together, I always try very hard every month to make the fabric shine and be the star of the show, but I think that that really is the case in this month, where we're able to just really get that fabric nice and centered and take advantage of those really large designs with the All the Pretties pattern that we created to go with it. And there really was no fussy cutting. There was some mindful cutting of strip piecing, but you didn't have to like make sure that this thing was centered before you cut it and then went out. So check out our video tutorial for the piecing of All the Pretties. We also have one on how I quilted it, and now you can watch, and now you watch this one. So thanks so much for following along there. Always remember, you can get the kit, you can get the yardage, you can sign up for Stashin with Stephanie on our website over at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com. If you've gotten this far, it means that you are really enjoying this, and I think you're really going to enjoy the club. You get 10 fat quarters for $29.99 a month plus shipping. Plus we get a free pattern to you that is inspired by the fabric every month. So this was this month's free pattern. You get access to all of our previous patterns that we have created for the Stashin with Stephanie Club. You get discounts on my best-selling book, Fat Quarter Workshop. It's just lots of really great deals. You get first dibs on this fabric, and some of it, let me tell you, was sold out. Those peacocks, gone before we opened it up for everybody else. So it's a great deal. I hear all the time that it's the best deal of any club out there, and we bring you fun, modern fabrics and a project to use them with every month. You also get exclusive discounts to get additional fabrics. You can turn your bundle from a 10-piece bundle to the quilt, or if you've got something else in mind for it, you can get additional yardage as well, so that way you can make that work at home. Well, thanks so much for watching. Again, go check out everything at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com. Check out Monika's website as well. We'll link it in the video description down below so you can see more about her. And she is just phenomenal. I identified a lot with her. You know, it's moms trying to make a living, doing what you love, and being able to be present for your kids. And that is so important right now. And I know that I'm so glad that I made that call a long time ago, because this last year was already hard enough without having like a boss breathing down my neck wondering where things were at. So this, you know, it was the best career move I ever made, and I bet you Monika would probably say the same. So thanks so much for watching, and until next time, happy quilting.